Today, we'll be talking about the "I didn't do enough" scene from Schindler's List.
There will be generations because of what you did.
I didn't do enough.
You did so much.
One of the most iconic movies ever, not just for its emotions, but also for its brilliant technicality. How did the cinematography, lighting, and the narrative have such an impact on making the scene so memorable? There was not a dry eye while watching the scene. It's one of the most recalled scenes because it is finally so raw in emotion and morally uncomplicated.
Here, you know who that man is?
I know.
Amongst many other significant and touching scenes, this one is one of the most powerful moments that comes at the end. The scene is shot in Spielberg's trademark black and white style, giving it a documentary-like reality and increasing the emotional impact. In this scene, Oskar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson, an Irish actor, noted for his dramatic performances and deep, compelling voice, breaks down in tears, overcome with guilt after saving over 1,100 Jewish lives. He regrets that he could have saved more if he had given up his fortune. Surrounded by thankful survivors, he collapses in Itzhak Stern's arms, saddened by the weight of those he was unable to save. The scene serves as the film's dramatic finale, emphasizing Schindler's metamorphosis and the haunting weight of moral duty. Surrounded by the Jews, Oskar Schindler and Itzhak Stern face each other. Schindler, a guilty and deeply remorseful man who believes he didn't do enough despite carrying out extraordinary deeds and saving the lives of the Jews. The camera operates in a handheld manner, softly trembling as it follows Oskar Schindler, emphasizing his instability and emotional breakdown. Close-ups and medium views dominate the sequence, focusing on Schindler's facial expressions and body language as he struggles with his guilt. Oskar is weighted deeply by moral responsibility and understands how he will always be remembered as a criminal. Rather than a hero adds to his character's complexities, someone who did good within a corrupt system, but remains stained by it. Stern, on the other hand, with his calm and composed personality, was a good counterpart of Schindler's remorse. He could see what he did for the Jews and was filled with gratitude and understanding. The minimal dialogue in the scene shows how he silently grieved for the lives he lost, but was grateful for the life that remains. Him standing there with Schindler through his breakdown shows that he understands the good in him, but he also knows nothing at this point would comfort him. While Schindler struggles with guilt and fear of not having done enough, Stern stands as a symbol of recognition and gratitude. Stern represents the lives he saved, whereas Schindler sees his own shortcomings. His appearance informs the audience that, despite Schindler's remorse, his acts had a far-reaching influence. Oskar Schindler wasn't a typical superhero with all the morality and heroism who would save the world by fighting for his beliefs. In fact, he was flawed, as he was a gambler, a drinker, and also a womanizer who lived being greedy and running after lust. This personality of his and the deeds he did later are the things that make him more mysterious. Schindler had a motive of starting a factory in Nazi-occupied Poland so that he could use the Jews as laborers at starvation cost and gain huge profits out of it. However, the transition at the end of the war is heartwarming, as he spends every bit of his fortune that he has to save those Jews. Why did he change? What happened to change him from a victimizer to a humanitarian? It is to Steven Spielberg's great credit that his film Schindler's List does not attempt to address that question. Any potential explanation would be too simplistic, an affront to the mystery of Schindler's existence. The Holocaust was a massive, evil engine propelled by prejudice and madness. Schindler outsmarted it in his little area of the conflict, but he appears to have had no plan and improvised based on instincts that were unclear even to himself.
I'm a profiteer of slave labor.
In this, his best film, Spielberg portrays the Holocaust and the miracle of Schindler's List without resorting to the easy cliches of fiction. While Schindler's emotions collapse, Stern, a Jewish accountant, remains collected, representing quiet strength, thankfulness, and profound insight. Throughout the film, Stern directs Schindler's shift from opportunist to rescuer. In this scene, he attempts to console Schindler, but his words cannot alleviate the crushing remorse that consumes him.
I could have got more out. I could have got more. I don't know if I just...
His calm manner stands in stark contrast to Schindler's collapse, underscoring Schindler's current weight of survivor's guilt. His attempt to steady Schindler exemplifies Holocaust survivors' quiet resilience, acknowledging both the tragedy and the life that endures. The scene starts with World War II coming to an end, and Schindler has spent a small amount of his personal riches to buy off army officers and save the lives of approximately 1,200 Jewish men and women. The lighting remains somewhat soft but sharp, generating a dramatic contrast that highlights Schindler's face. The shadows on his face emphasize his inner agony, accentuating his feelings of sorrow and personal failure. The refugees and Schindler stand in comparatively open location, graphically representing the weight of his deeds against the backdrop of those he rescued. It slowly builds tension, gradually intensifying the emotional weight of the moment as Schindler's remorse becomes more overwhelming before reaching its climax. As the war ends and Schindler bids farewell to the people he saved, he looks around at their faces. He drops the ring he received and frantically searches for it, showing how much it means to him to receive it. Schindler stands in the center, with Itzhak Stern and the survivors surrounding him. This staging emphasizes the community's gratitude for his acts, while also isolating Schindler and his personal pain. When Schindler begins to grieve not selling his car or his gold pin, the gang goes toward him as if to comfort him, but he remains emotionally distant. His focus shifts to his automobile, which is parked in their midst, rather than to a face. Schindler simply breaks down and tears violently, realizing that he could have sold his automobile and utilized that money to save 10 more lives. He looks at his pin and thinks about how he could use it to save 2 more lives. This tiny object, when juxtaposed with the misery around him, represents the moral tension between riches and human value. His outfit, which formerly symbolized power and rank, now appears almost oppressive, emphasizing his metamorphosis from a war profiteer to a man burdened by his duty. Throughout the movie, Oskar Schindler transforms from a self-centered businessman benefiting from the war to a man willing to risk everything to rescue over 1,000 Jewish lives. In this moment, he completely understands the gravity of what has occurred and recognizes that despite his heroic efforts, he could have done more. His collapse represents the pinnacle of his moral and emotional transformation that happened from a figure of authority and confidence to one overwhelmed with guilt and humility. One of the most compelling themes in this scene is the value of all human lives. The sequence emphasizes this by portraying Schindler sobbing over the fact that he could have saved just 1 more life. It also contrasts with the film's earlier dehumanization, in which Jewish lives were viewed as expendable by the Nazis, by highlighting the moral weight of each individual. This scene shows the weight of not doing enough for the Jews to save them. Spielberg expertly employs photography, lighting, and blocking to emphasize Schindler's guilt and the moral ambiguity of his decisions. It makes him feel like he didn't do enough. The wide-open location near the factory represents both emancipation and loss. The survivors have been saved, but the cost of the battle is still felt. The sequence takes place in a bleak region, which emphasizes Schindler's sense of emptiness, despite his heroic efforts. Schindler's complaint that he could have gotten more displays intense survivor guilt.
I could have got more out. I could have got more.
This guilt is key to the film's message that regardless of how much good he has done, losing even one life is devastating. His emphasis on material belongings as missed opportunities to save lives reinforces the film's indictment of prioritizing wealth over humanity. The Jews around Schindler do not blame him. Rather, they express gratitude. This wordless, emotional contrast adds to Schindler's heartbreaking self-reproach. Stern's attempt to soothe Schindler is heartfelt, but ultimately ineffective, as Schindler is tormented by his guilt. Their silent support underlines the idea that even in the face of enormous suffering, actions of kindness and courage are still important. Before we dig deeper and understand the scene better, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get similar breakdowns of exceptional movie scenes. It would mean a lot to us. You can see Liam Neeson's body language during this scene, where he's confident and upright in the beginning. But as the scene proceeds, his quivering hands, his faltering voice, and eventual collapse into tears, which adds to the authenticity of it. The way Stern and the others listen silently adds to the weight of his comments, as their expressions alternate between thankfulness and regret. The scene is one of the most emotional in cinema history because it is about what Schindler feels he did not accomplish, rather than what he did. It serves as the film's emotional and moral conclusion, underlining its central themes of guilt, atonement, and the unfathomable value of human life. Spielberg reduces the sequence to its most intimate elements by having close-ups of Schindler's shaking hands, his cracking voice, and the troubled look in his eyes. The black and white photography, bleak lighting, and unstable camera work heighten the sense of emotional collapse, allowing the audience to understand the intensity of his anguish. The survivors around him express silent gratitude, but Schindler is entirely undone, trapped in the thought that he could have done more. The music in this scene is a masterclass in simplicity and emotional storytelling. With John Williams using a simple yet profoundly evocative theme to amplify the impact of one of the film's most moving moments. The mix of sobbing violin and quiet orchestration reflects Schindler's shame and deep grief. The music does not resolve harmonically in a satisfying manner, creating a sense of unfinished business, much like Schindler's own regrets. The use of quiet between musical passages heightens the impact of his remarks and the tears of those who surround him. Story-wise, this moment shatters any sense of closure. Schindler, although saving over 1,000 lives, does not consider himself a hero. Instead, he only sees the people he failed to save. His Mercedes and gold pin, once symbols of power and position, have become agonizing reminders of wasted opportunities. This shattering understanding intensifies his breakdown as he collapses to the ground and sobs, inconsolable even as the people he saved try to console him. Despite being a hero, Schindler must flee since he is still a Nazi party member. This irony adds to the film's emotional depth, demonstrating that even a man who rescued over 1,000 lives is devastated by the horrors of war. This sequence sets up the film's conclusion, in which the real-life Schindler Jews visit his grave. It leaves the audience with a nagging question: what more could Schindler or the world have done? The scene assures that Schindler is remembered not only as a savior, but also as a man who never believed his efforts were sufficient. Spielberg uses this scene to remind the audience that even the greatest acts of goodness can feel insufficient in the face of overwhelming evil, emphasizing the film's message even further. It is not just the climax of Schindler's personal journey, but also the emotional core of the film, distilling themes of sacrifice, morality, and the infinite value of human life. The raw emotions in this scene are captivating and leave the viewers in tears. But what makes this scene so powerful is not just the emotion, but how Spielberg uses every visual element to enhance it. Just as Troy doesn't just rely on sword fighting but on cinematic techniques, Schindler's List does the same. This is not just a story about guilt. It's a visual masterpiece that fully immerses the audience in the emotional truth of the Holocaust. The director has shown brilliance in this scene by making it as raw and touching as possible, even with the visuals. He has used different cinematic techniques to depict the emotions of sadness, guilt, sacrifice, and redemption in the scene. This scene is so impactful because it expresses something fundamentally human. The notion that no matter how much we grieve, it will never be enough in the face of great suffering. Schindler's sadness is not simply his own, but it is the pain of humanity that watched as millions died. Finally, Schindler's List is a story about the awful weight of conscience as well as heroism. What's most impressive about this film is how well Spielberg serves his story. The film is superbly acted, written, directed, and presented. Individual scenes are masterworks in art direction, cinematography, special effects, and crowd management. The Enterprise has a great sense of focus. This scene assures that Schindler is regarded not as a triumphant savior, but as a man haunted by the idea that he could have done more. And at that terrible, shattering moment, Spielberg presents the audience with a fact that lingers long after the credits roll. The responsibility to act, save, and do more is one that we all have. Did you enjoy the video? Please go through our channel to find more interesting breakdowns of famous scenes of brilliant movies. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.
At midnight, you'll be free, and I'll be hunted. I shall remain with you until 5 minutes after midnight, after which time, and I hope you'll forgive me, I have to flee.